So the hailstorm, there is this they call hypothermia. Hypothermia, that when you are too cold, you can die. After, I think I was about to die. But soon after the rain, Mr. Kaguta came running and sent me home, and my mother made a fire. I could hear life coming back to me. That's when I knew that. Now later on, when people were talking about hypothermia, I remembered, oh, that was hypothermia. Without understanding the Africa of 1900, at the dawn of colonialism, and what happened subsequently. While much of Africa had been ravaged by the slave trade for 400 years, by that time, by 1900, our part of Africa had not been so much affected by the slave trade, although there were some isolated incidents of slave snatching. That's why Banyankole believed that Goans were cannibals, that Goans were Abagohan Bariabantu. They believed that Goans, I don't know why they thought of Goans, but I think it was because of this kidnapping by the slave traders. The late Aaron Muhinda, I remember very well, died in 1955 when I was in primary 3, had been liberated from slavery at the coast of Mombasa. He is the grandfather of our permanent secretary for tourism, Silva Katusime. I don't know whether Katusime Silva knows this. Our grandfather, Aaron Muhinda, had been taken as a young slave boy to Mombasa. And that's where he was liberated by the missionaries, Bishop Taka. And when he was there, he met a Munyoro woman who had also been kidnapped, a girl, and they got married and produced Katusime's father, this PS, who was named Kuku after Dr. Albert Cook. You remember the other Cook? So this man died in 1955 when I was in primary 3, and I was. They were being captured in tribal wars fomented by the bankrupt kings and then sold in slavery. However, the whole of Africa, and indeed our part of Africa, was still in the pre-capitalist mode of production and society. The societies were feudal or pre-feudal primitive communalism societies. The production of wealth was organized in emyoga, this word which I encouraged you to use recently, was organized in emyoga, specialized skills I would use the Nyankore versions, but you can put them in any other language, such as okuhinga, growing crops, kurisa, herding cattle, and general livestock keeping, okuhesha, blacksmithing, okubeija, carpentry, okunogora, pottery, okukomaga. Okukomaga, this is making back cloth. Okutanaga. You know, these people were very advanced. They were doing everything. Okutanaga. That is making bows and arrows. Okurema. Shoemaking. Okuhara. Leather making. Okujuba. Fishing. Okuhara. Leather making. Oh, I have repeated that. Okushakira. General medical work. Okuragura. Divination. Okujenga. Surgery. You know, these people had surgeons. Abajenji. Who could remove bones from inside you. Sailing, they had professional water people called Abarimbi. That's what they were called. This is in Nyankore, you can go and put it in other dialects. These yoga were being done by communities. A community could specialize in something, the whole community. By communities, clans, you could have the clan of Abahesi. They are known that clan is a clan of blacksmith. They do it as a clan. Or families on a hereditary basis. Yeah, on a hereditary basis. I am a blacksmith. My children and grandchildren will be blacksmiths. And everybody knows that's what we do. We don't go into crops. The Muhesi doesn't go into crops. The people do crops and they bring them to him. And then he gives them, they would then, okchurka, butter trade with the other families to get what they needed, but did not make themselves. The long distance trade to the coast was being done by the Abarunganwa. This is a corruption of the Swahili word waungwana. This is Banyankore here say, this is Barunganwa. But it meant waungwana. You can hear some names called Karunganwa. Some families, if you check, people are using those names. These were mainly the Banyamwezi from Tabora in Tanzania. That tribe from Tabora, the Wanyamwezi, were the ones doing this trade between the inland here and the coast of East Africa. They would bring textiles, emyenda, glass beads, enkwanzi. When you hear this chenkwanzi, which the Waganda mispronounce as kyankwanzi, it is chenkwanzi. I think they named it chenkwanzi because it is flattish. As you can see, it is flattish. And when it rains, you get some floods, which then shine in the sun like beads. This is what I think. I think that's what they call it, chenkwanzi. Because that chenkwanzi means the place of the beads, of the glass beads. Guns. They would bring guns. The people from the coast, these guns had started coming. Mbundu, obuganga, gunpowder, and so on. There was some limited use of cowrie shells, and CMB as money. That is why one of the words for money is CMB. Even today, the old people would call money CMB because of the cowrie shells. The other word for money is mpiha, rupiah from mpiha from rupiah, because that was the currency being used in India when the British were here. So they were bringing it here, rupiah. My grandfather was using rupiah. If you hear songs praising my grandfather, they will say he bought a cow with rupiah as part of praising him that he was a wealth creator. However, so this was when you are talking of Aronda, all these big people, go back to where it all starts. It starts with the politics. The politics about what? About society. So that's why I want you to go back. So this was the economy of Uganda and maybe Africa before colonialism, before 1900. However, the pre-colonial dominant mode of trade was by barter trade, with mainly abebunzi. Abebunzi are the itinerant hawking traders. These who go around hawking. Those are called abebunzi. Okubunzia is to hawk. The Luganda word for hawkers is, I think, abatembei. Waliwo Abaganda wano? Abaganda ennaku zino omanyi bakendeera beta Abaganda. Waliwo Omuganda ddala wano? Ogenda osanga Abarundi nti be Baganda abali wano. Batembi si be bali aba? Nalweso Muganda asigaddewo. Kati olaba Muganda oli jangu tuyambe munange omwana omuwala. Kandi bo Muganda ddala. Genda ku muzindaalo. Ate weeyanjule tukutegeere bulungi. Sara? Chiyimba. Okay. So what is abatembei? Hawkers, yes. Olaba nange ndi Muganda weru. So this was the form of trade. Here, because this is a short speech, I didn't mention the trade with Congo. Here I just mentioned the trade with the East African coast. But later on you can add the trade with Congo. There were those Congolese were experts in making products from ivory. Engoro people were putting on bangles made of ivory called Engoro. Very nice, made by those Congolese. I think these are the Kabyangas. You know, these Kasese people, you don't know who is the Congolese and who is not. Bariao. So then the Miringa. I don't know whether this Miringa were brass or copper or what, but they were that type of color. Either copper or brass or something. But they were making them, those Congolese. You don't know how they were making them that time, how they were melting, how they were the bangles of Miringa. Then Amoshe, the neck decorations made from the hair of the giraffe, from the Ntwiga, the hair of the giraffe. So that was the other trade coming from that side, from the Congo side. When the colonialists, following the imperialist Berlin Conference, divided up Africa as a cake, you know, the Europeans came and cut Africa like that. You take this one, you take this one. Just like that. We had our wonderful kings here, putting on monkey skins, looking like clowns. Those people just said, this is for Tanganyika, this is for Germany, this is for, just like that. So when the colonialists, following the imperialist Berlin Conference, divided up Africa as a cake in 1884-85, Uganda was allocated to the British, who in 1903 introduced cotton as a cash crop. So you remember the old economy was based on emyoga, no money, barter trade. Now the British have introduced cash. In 1903, Uganda Company, it was called Uganda Company, the political department can do research on this, as a cash crop. They also introduced the shilling as a currency for the East African Empire, issued by the East African Currency Board. There was the East African Currency Board, which was issuing this money. I think it was based in Eden. Should check. I think it was based in Eden, because Eden was also part of the British. The colonial invasion destroyed many of the myoga, especially the handcrafts, the pangas, the hose, which were being made by your people, the Bahesi, were now being made by Chillington. Do you remember Chillington? Yes. There was a British company. It was here even in Uganda, making hose. So the European companies grabbed livelihood from your people, and they were totally out. Pangas, hose, plates. Your people had very nice plates. We were using them in the 1940s, made of wood, wooden plates. They last long. You wonder why I've been encouraging our people. Why don't you make this lady Mukwaya, Janet? She was in the other minister of gender. I said, you people, why don't you bring back These plates, wooden plates. Buno bunanu papura bwemukozesa obusuyani plastic. My grandfather, who died in 1941, left a milk pot, which I still have now. The man died in 1941, before I was born. He had a milk pot, a chance, which was drinking in, and he left it as a souvenir to Mr. Kaguta. After he left him 2 pots, but when I came from the bush, I found one had disappeared. But I saw one, which those people were mishandling. I took it from them. I have it. The product is still there. So some of those products should be revived. And that's why when I was going through the exhibition of the army, I could see some of the traditional instruments which should be modernized. So all those plates, spoons, endosho. Our people were using wooden spoons, not these metallic ones which rust and so on. Inferiority complex of the Africans is their big problem. Yes, it's good to copy, but copy something good. You don't abandon your own good thing and you go for kafifi of foreigners. I really want to encourage there is in the cabinet when we went to Ngoma, there was a young girl there who is making these products. I will support her to bring back these. The wooden products are very good. They last long, forever. The plates, the spoons, the combs, they last forever rather than these plastic things you are using. Me, I don't have problem of combing because so the shoes, pots, back cloth, the back cloth should be modernized. It's a very strong fiber. That fiber of the back cloth, Orubugo, very strong fiber, but nobody has bothered to isolate that fiber and modernize it. Chairs, etc., were now replaced by imported items by the imperialists. Hence, the surviving Emyoga people retreated into making merely ornamental items like drums. Now the only thing they are making are drums, just for because the British were not interested in the drums. They were interested in mass consumption items, plates. Everybody is using a plate, so you take those. Everybody is using a spoon, you take that. Everybody is using shoes, you take that. Everybody is using cloth, you take that. Then the natives can remain with the ngoma for dancing at night. It's not of great importance. Ornamental items like drums, emirebe, cowbells, etc. By 1962, when the British were forced to retreat, they had created a small enclave. In the 1960s, in the universities, we are using this word, enclave. Enclave meaning island. Island. A small enclave, island, of money economy, characterized as the economy of the 3 C's and 3 T's. That's what they were calling that, a small island of money economy by 1962. The 3 C's were cotton, coffee, and copper. These were the 3 C's. And the 3 T's were tobacco, tourism, and tea. According to the census of 1969, these absorbed, I think, a percentage of 4% of the homesteads. You can check this, the political department. How many homesteads had joined the money economy by 1969 census? Because I remember that census, I don't know whether it captured that. There was another one of 1959, I doubt very much that they captured that. So, but I think somebody had told me 4% only. So that means 96% of the homesteads were outside the money economy. In our language, we say, teach, me each, keken. I can see Beatrice Zakari is embarrassed because I'm speaking very well the actual language. In our other language, do you know people called the Bagwere? Have you ever seen a Bagwere? Is there a Mugwere here? They are very rare. You don't see them. There is a Mugwere there. Where are you? You come and we see you. What do you do as a Mugwere? Okora idahano tumure. You know these Bagwere speak Nyankore in a bad way.
Your Excellency, I work under the Ministry of Internal Affairs. I'm the Director of Government Analytical Laboratories, Your Excellency.
Director of?
Government Analytical Laboratories.
Director?
Of Government Analytical Laboratories.
W?
Government Analytical Laboratories.
Oh, government lab. Oh!
Yes.
Omgwere yasoma bwatyo.
Yes, Your Excellency.
Omgwere yasomera wa.
Your Excellency.
Tomorrow Omgwere ndutake ino. You are too tall. You get near, bend down. You are too tall.
Your Excellency, Inzwera Petete, Butevo District, Anasmeire Bugwere High School, Ninjabe Budo, Ninzwe Budo, Ninjabe Makerere.
Oh! Katukobera abantu bano mu Lugwere obakobere when we say working only for the stomach.
O President atraina okukosa ekigambo ky'okukolera ekida kyonka.
Okitumula otya?
Okukolera ekida kyonka.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You know, I liked the Lugwere version because I was struggling with how to describe it to our people. In the West, you say Okora and Dayonka, which is a bit polite. But when they put it in Luganda, it's really rude. So I like the Lugwere version. Okora ekita kyonka. To work only for the stomach. So, by 1969, it seems only 4% of the people were in the money economy, and 96% were okore chida kyonka. This meant mass poverty in the midst of plentiful natural resources, land, water, livestock, forests, minerals, etc. Resources rich, but corrupt, with a poor population all over the country. Poor housing, poor health, dirty water, no education, poor hygiene, poor nutrition, only manual labor. You don't know how much problem we had in the villages in the 1940s and 1960s because of shortage of labor. Even when the British introduced these few cash crops, coffee, cotton, they didn't have enough labor here. They had to grab people by force. That's how people came from other countries, from Rwanda, from Burundi, to provide the labor. There was not enough labor. The Banyankwere called shortage of labor Obwejana. Obwejana. You even hear some names, especially in the Toro, you hear Mboijana. 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 Meaning, I am suffering from lack of support, of labor support. Obwejana bwanyita. There was a woman in parliament called Chibwejana. Do you remember that woman? Yes. Chibwejana. So shortage of labor was a big problem. Because remember, there were no labor saving techniques. Like we, the cattle keepers, we did not have the simple technique of barbed wire, sengenge, to control the cows. So I was the sengenge. I'm the one who had to control the cows, to make sure that they don't go into people's crops, to make sure that they don't disappear. And yet, all it needed was just a sengenge to stop the cows. But because we didn't have that labor-saving technique, children couldn't go to school some because of that. Too much labor. In 1955, there was a hailstorm. I was like 9 years looking after the cows at a hill there called Ntera. And then the hailstorm came. But I couldn't leave the cows. I had to stand in front of the cows to make sure that they don't go into people's crops. So the hailstorm, there is this they call hypothermia. Hypothermia, that when you are too cold, you can die. Yeah. Actually, I think I was about to die. But soon after the rain, Mr. Kaguta came running and sent me home, and my mother made a fire. I could hear life coming back to me. That's when I knew that. Now, later on, when people are talking about hypothermia, I remembered, oh, that was hypothermia. But imagine, the problem was a simple technique of barbed wire to control the cows. The only way was the manual, you physically to be the Sengenge. No transport, walking on foot, etc. Even by 2013, a whole 68% of the homesteads of Uganda were still in the non-money economy. Okora echida chonka. That is why I had to involve the UPDF in the form of Operation Wealth Creation. When the UPDF were involved, by 2021, the figures were showing that figure of the people working only for the stomach had shrunk to 39%. So within 7 years, General Saleh and his group brought down the people outside the money economy by what percent? From 68, 39, what was the improvement? 29%. Now, the problem was that then also they got involved now in making seed beds and all that. So they started creating arguments among the people. That's why we had now to change it to PDM. But otherwise, they had done a good job. The new census will tell us what the figure now is. In the meantime, in 1971, Idi Amin came on the scene, totally oblivious to the ideas of the modern economy. Therefore, by 1986, when the NRM came into power, the small enclave economy had almost disappeared. You remember the other small island of the 3 Cs and 3 Ts had almost disappeared. The other of the 3 Cs, only coffee was still limping on. The other 2, cotton and copper, had disappeared. Of the 3 Ts, only tobacco was still limping on. Tourism and tea had disappeared. Ever since 1900, when the whole of African continent, except for Ethiopia, had capitulated to imperialism, the African peoples, led by new forces, had launched a massive anti-colonial struggle led by the ANC of South Africa in 1912, but also with some participation by some Pan-Africanist African Americans such as W.B. Du Bois, Pademore, Marcus Garvey, and others. So when the Europeans defeated our ignorant chiefs, putting on monkey skins with somebody puts on a lion skin that is a lion. So these fellows, they squandered our heroes. Our people fought very well, but they were bad organized by these people. And they were fighting among themselves, busy fighting among themselves. Here in Uganda, Kabarega and Mwanga got together, but when it was too late, because they had wasted a lot of time fighting one another. So, when the kings failed to defend Africa, now new people came. That's how the ANC was founded in 1912. By the time we came on the scene as a student movement, but also as youth members of the new colonial political parties of Uganda at that time, we had to distill. Actually, I'm trying to, it's a long story, but I'm trying to summarize. But the real story is here. We had to distill accurate political ideas from the confusion that characterizes many struggles. Because you see, people have a lot of confusion. This one is saying this one is saying that. Everybody is an expert. Kila moja ni mjuaji. They don't discuss, they just take positions. So it's very dangerous, because if you, as I was telling some people, political work is like medicine. The doctor must study the patient. This patient, what is he suffering from? You look at the signs, you look at the symptoms. If you can check the blood and so on, then you make a diagnosis. If you make a correct diagnosis, then you'll be able to give a correct prescription. But if you make a wrong diagnosis and you make a wrong prescription, the patient will die. And this is what has happened. African countries have died. If you see what's happening in Somalia, what's happening in Sudan, Khartoum, imagine Khartoum. Khartoum is a very powerful country. But now see what's happening there. Congo, diagnosis. Incorrect diagnosis. So this is what we had to deal with as a student movement when we came up. And we were part of this, some of us were part of those political parties, DP, UPC, and all that. In particular, we had to reject the politics of identity of tribes and religion that the opportunists were pushing that time and ever since. Imagine somebody says, we form a party of Catholics. That's how DP was formed in 1954. We need hours, a chafe, hours, megwa. Even if something is rotten, but megwa. Megwa is actually for a chafe. You don't know our language. Me, I'm always busy with my people. Then the UPC now, the Protestants, the Catholics have beaten us. Let's form ours. So they formed the UPC. Now, a man called Ike Musazi had tried Banang. This man started in the 1920s, was organizing the unions, the farmers, from the 1930s or 20s. So actually, Ike Musazi was organizing on a national basis. And in 1952, he formed the Uganda National Congress. This his father, John Kare, was a very active member of that UNC. He died in the plane going to Russia from Cairo. He had an office in Cairo. The father of John Kare, of this Kare here, he's the one who was called John Kare. Is this one a Christian or what? What's your real name? Kare Kehura. Edward. Nobody knows anything about him. His Christianity is not known. So, this people, John Kare, had left a seminary. He had left seminary. John Kare and Ike Musazi and others. For them, they were forming a national party. Uganda National Congress. Then these people, the Catholic elite, say, we don't want this one of all. We want ours. DP, 1954. Mugwanya and I don't know who, Sebastian Kibuka and others. Then the UPC, 1960. Oh, the Catholics have beaten us. We should form ours. So theirs was UPC. Then our wonderful Mengo group, Kabaka Yeka, 1961, formed Kabaka Yeka. So that's how we got, these were the politics we found ourselves in. And they will say, Echetu. Echafe. Mewa. You was who? Of course, you would know what they are talking about. In particular, we are to reject the politics of identity of tribes and religion that the opportunists were pushing that time and ever since. After a decade of analysis, by the time we metamorphosed into a liberation movement with the launch of the anti-Amin struggle, we had arrived at a diagnosis of what we thought was the problem of Uganda and maybe Africa. We identified 3 problems, and these are lack of prosperity, what I told you, poor housing, poor hygiene, poor health, and so on. No education, no transport. Secondly, lack of strategic security. Thirdly, the failure to use the clear brotherhood of African peoples. The lack of prosperity has already been described above. Poor housing, lack of education, poor health, poverty, etc., etc. What is the medicine for that? The answer is to create prosperity. But then the question is, where does prosperity come from? Our answer is that it comes from every adult, omuntu yenna omukulu, participating in the production of a good or a service that is then sold. This is our answer. To create prosperity, every adult must participate. You can participate as an entrepreneur, you are the owner of the business. Or you participate as a worker for the entrepreneur, but you participate. You must participate in producing a good or a service and selling it. If you do that sustainably, you will get money. As you produce a good or a service, you must have a kibaro, chura, otita. Do you know rugubara? Have you ever seen rugubara, how they look like? Oh, there's a rugubara here. Our default. So for the rugubara, the chibaro is otita. IMAR. IMAR is Ateso Karamajong. Calculating maximum returns in earnings from the selected enterprise. You see how efficient our languages are. When I tell you to do something with the Chibaro, I don't have to add all these wrong things. Calculating, wrong, what. Very efficient. Your people, the only problem of the African people was leadership, political. But otherwise, everything else, language, food, culture, very, very, very powerful. Agriculture, language. This one, I don't have to describe, to calculate. Finish. I don't have to add anything. You know what I'm talking about. So, if you say that is the answer, that prosperity will come from producing a good or a service and selling it and doing it with the Chibaro, then the next question was, who will buy in big quantities and sustainably what you produce, the goods or the service? Who will buy them? It is the answer to this question that helped us to debunk the pseudo-politics of identity. To answer this question, you will hear how I will answer it. Who will buy what you produce? We found that many Banyankore did not buy the milk, the beef, or the bananas, which are the products of those people, of theirs. Why? It was because many of them have similar products. A does not buy from B, and B does not buy from A. Who then are the buyers that mainly buy what the Banyankore produce? It is mainly the non-Banyankore or the Banyankore living in towns that buy the milk, the beef, and the bananas of the Banyankore.